Kyle.
And we're live. Back at it again with another episode of Tech Talks. We are your three hosts, me being Senior Codes.
I'm Mr. Handy.
I'm Magic Hacker.
And we're coming to you on May 30th, 2020. There wasn't a lot of things to discuss that were tech related, but we've got a few topics for you guys today. The main thing I wanted to cover is that as of right now, the SpaceX launch is in a few hours. So that was the main thing that I wanted to discuss on this talk. If you guys have anything, please speak up.
For me today, I really don't have much to say. Yeah. So
Tech-wise?
I've
got
it's a first for me, but I don't have much to say for this week.
Okay. I've got two things that we can talk about, things that are big in the news. There's some stuff going around about Section 230 and what that means and how that affects internet businesses, particularly Twitter. As well as there is a space launch, dating this court recording, but there's a space launch, or should be, second attempt at it with the later today.
I literally just said that. You weren't even listening.
Other than that, you said? I was trying my best, but like you're kind of low.
Oh wait, hold on, wait. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. It's fine.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start us off with the SpaceX launch. So as I talked about last week, SpaceX, this is we talked about it last week, and we kind of, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but this is, it kind of takes the hype out. Well, this is the second attempt by the SpaceX crew, but
so they scrubbed the first one, right?
Yes, the first one was scrubbed due to weather conditions. It was just unfavorable weather conditions, so they decided to scrap the whole thing and try in a few days. So I'm trying to find out the name of the two astronauts going up.
Well, it's a Falcon 9 rocket, right? Do you know offhand if it's one of the vertical land rockets?
I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, they won't be vertical. I mean, so the thing
that's
that lands
on a drone
vertical,
barge, and it's a remote thing. Obviously,
yeah,
that would be kind of suicidal.
It's the boosters, right? The boosters are the things that come back down into orbit and vertically land.
2015, I remember him being a bit of a laughing stock for all those tests because there were just so many compilations online of just these boosters just crashing into the launch pad, missing the launch pad entirely, not boosting enough, one of the legs collapsing, and just basically just explosion after explosion after explosion on the launch pad, on the landing pad. But many tries later, they eventually got it to work, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to just the reentry is kind of hard. Oh, here's the names. I think we have Doug Hurley and then Robert Benkin. I think those are the two.
And they're NASA astronauts. They have nothing to do with SpaceX, right?
Yeah, this is literally just SpaceX. NASA is just using SpaceX technology, but they are NASA astronauts.
Well, that's cool. I know there's a whole big thing about them driving over in a Tesla and whatnot.
Yeah. So I guess something else that's in the parallel, it's kind of a tangent, but Elon Musk is set to get $700 million per his promise of Tesla's performance in this quarter this year or something like that. So
yeah,
I think he's on schedule to get it, or he's either confirmed it or he's really close to getting it. So
was that affected by the well, I guess their stock prices probably weren't too affected because of all the. Is that just from SpaceX or is that from all its businesses?
That was just from Tesla. So he's literally just raking off of Tesla, and then you know, giving the man 700 million, there's no telling what he'll do, because he did a lot with I think he got like around 100 million from the PayPal deal he did like back in the early 2000s or late 2000s. But yeah, this launch is happening in a couple of hours. Hopefully it goes well.
But that's down in Florida on was it Kennedy, right?
I think so.
Something like that.
I think so.
So it is interesting to kind of look at the different stock prices when we're talking about. So generally speaking, a lot of car companies not doing super hot right now.
Yeah.
Tesla, on the other hand, is practically right up at the same level it was before the crash.
It was even doing better for a second before Elon tweeted out the stock price is too high.
I mean, it didn't actually ever crest above its peak in February, but unless there's like a 2-minute or something, I don't know. But no, it's below it. But it's not far off. I mean, its peak was 917. It's at 835 right now. It got as low as 430. Dang, or 361. Dang, that would have been a really high ROI.
Yeah. I you know, I thought that the time to get into stocks was definitely a couple months ago, and I think I bought some at like 500 or like 550, and yeah,
But it's not a guarantee, because if you look at Ford, so Ford has actually been on the down even before the crisis. So it peaked in like December at about 947.
Yeah.
Or 947, and so it went as low as 401. So it did about the same halving, but it's not recovered anywhere near that. It's like 58, 580, like 570.
I think it's
And that's $5, whereas Tesla is in the $100 range. But like, so like if you invested in Ford, I mean, at your best return was 3 days ago, was $6, right? You made a 1.5 ROI at best, and if you got it like halfway down the slope, I mean, you're still losing money still. So it's really hard, I think, to know.
Yeah, I think with these with SpaceX, I mean not SpaceX, with Tesla stock, people are more so betting on Elon Musk instead of like the company itself. Like
right. That's the one thing that always concerned me is like, should Elon leave, lose interest, or die? Those sectors just kind of implode.
Yeah, it's really hard to say like where things will go if that ever happens, because you know Elon Musk has a lot of fanboys, and you know we're talking about him because you know obviously today is a historic day. If this launch goes well, you know this is one of his
assuming it's not a
3-4
challenger.
companies.
Yeah,
exactly. So assuming everything goes well, you know he will be the owner of the company that had the first commercial space flight in America, which is, you know, that's, I would say it's probably not on the same level as Buzz Aldrin going to the moon, but it is pretty close because it changes the dynamic of actual space travel. Before it was so expensive where only the government can do it, but now you got, you know, Blue Origin, you got SpaceX, you got other smaller companies going up and starting to do space travel.
It gives me reminiscence of sort of like DARPANET and ARPANET, or is it DARPANET? Or OG internet made by the military, and then sort of how, you know, we opened it up, like private companies got involved in the rest of that, and it just exploded, right?
Yep.
Like the internet, as not as you know it, but the internet initially conceptualized began in like the 60s.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, it was government run and very slow up until the 80s. But by the late 90s, when private industry really got involved to now, it's just orders of magnitude larger scale, just with everything.
Yeah, given the last 30 years compared to the first 30 years, you know, it's definitely exploded.
Yeah. That's why I also have interest. Tesla, or Elon, is also investing in, and these are more long shot projects, but I think it's Fusion Canada or something like that. I can't remember what the actual name of the company is. But he's invested in one of those, or some fusion. Basically, they're trying to design a fusion reactor using the compression method. We'll see how well that works.
what is it? Fusion or fission? The one that's super hard.
Fission is the easy one. It releases radiation or radioactive materials, and it can also lead to a catastrophic chain reaction, a la 3 Mile
Chernobyl.
Island or Chernobyl, or even Fukushima in Japan. I think it's General Fusion. I think it's General Fusion is I think the one that he was invested in or something.
Yeah, to be honest, as a quick side note, I'm a little bit frightened of the amount of like power he would have if he has if he has space travel, if he has one of the world's most successful car companies, if he has a Neuralink, and if he has a fusion reactor on his team, then
thankfully he's all private. He's not privately traded. I would be really concerned if he was privately traded and doing that.
Yeah.
But it's publicly traded, so there is an involvement of the public to some capacity.
Well, I don't even think that you can buy SpaceX stock at the moment. Can you?
It might be.
Exactly.
That's a good question.
I use TD Ameritrade. So I used to do.
Is everybody just sitting on the stock? That's probably driving it to the roof right now. That's a good one. I'm gonna look up SpaceX.
I just know that Tesla, I got out of Tesla probably about a month, maybe 2 months ago. I got out. It's been going up ever since.
But during the plateau, did you get? You might have gotten out near the plateau though.
Yeah, I got a little return. I can't say that I didn't get anything. I bought relatively low and definitely got some money, but yeah, I don't think SpaceX, especially I don't think the boring
SpaceX
company,
is not public.
Yeah, I don't think the boring company is. I don't think SpaceX is. But all I know that is that Tesla.
It's a privately held company. Okay, I'm a little bit concerned about SpaceX. Although, to be fair, publicly traded companies aren't perfect either. I'm not going to get into the general bits of it, but private or public, there's always concerns about who owns the stocks, right?
Yeah.
And I know there were some concerns about some security concerns or national security concerns with regarding China or Iran. Not really so much Iran, but more China, and sort of being able to control interests in these companies.
I mean, the reason why I just brought up the 700 million is because I think I'm not sure if that's a payment of his stocks or that's how much he owns in stocks of Tesla. So one of the two. He's either getting paid outright 700 million or he has 700 million worth of stock. And I
think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he operates sort of he doesn't get a salary, but he has he doesn't get a flat salary. He gets a performance-based salary,
I think so.
Based on the stock price, I think is how it works.
I mean, that makes sense. That gives him motivation to do work and try harder. You sleep on the factory floor. So,
and again, that's speculative. I don't actually have any of the source on that in front of me. That's just.
Yeah.
Did you want to cover your last your ML stuff?
Yeah, let's get to it. I mean, it's only really fast. I mean, it's not it's not a breakthrough in ML. So basically, this came up on my feed because I follow machine learning, the subreddit for machine learning, and I also follow the Twitter page for the subreddit. And this kind of came up twice, where some guy, let me see if I can get his name. They might have not name dropped him. Some guy came up with a clustering or an algorithm to determine how many clusters you should have for your data. I think he's doing research right now. So
this is for unsupervised learning, right?
Yeah.
So wait, some guy came up with a clustering algorithm that determines how many clusters you should have to begin your unsupervised learning algorithm?
Yeah, so it says, and the title is Star Clustering, a clustering algorithm that automatically determines the number of clusters and doesn't require hyperparameter tuning. So he put his GitHub repository up here, and I can link that in the description if anybody wants to check that out. But this guy didn't really, I'm not sure what university he's at. They didn't really say. I'm not really sure. He just says that his colleagues have been complaining about the clustering algorithms, how they're so finicky, and so he just spent some time into this algorithm, called it star clustering, and he's getting some criticism back on Reddit. But you know, TLDR, it just seems like this might be something useful. I'm not sure if it'll gain traction, but
I
having
mean,
an algorithm,
determining
in my
how many
opinion,
clusters you have versus manually tuning it, I would assume that's very useful.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm not sure, like, practically how, like, you know, there's some guys saying that worst case it's looking like big O of n squared log n. So not really sure, like n squared
So
log n is,
less than n cubed, right?
yeah.
Well, it's running in polynomial time, which is good. You just don't want it to run in
Factorial or
factorial exponential. So polynomial time is good. And so yeah, people often, I think computer scientists often forget that polynomial time is good. It's just like you just need more computer power now to actually do it.
All right. Well, hacker, it depends on the context.
Yeah, I really think if you're working at like Amazon, or you're working at fucking Azure, you have the
no, I meant
unlimited.
like codes. I meant like like, so for instance, sorting algorithms, right? Well, yeah, polynomial, you know, well, I guess n log n, isn't that polynomial? But having something with n squared is not great for that application, but having an n squared log n for something way more difficult, right, is pretty good. Like, for instance, matrix multiplication isn't that sort of what? Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Like I said, will it gain traction? I don't know. Who is this guy? I don't know. What facility is he like from? No idea. It's just something that popped up on both of my Twitter feed and my Reddit feed. So, and it's interesting because if you can do this, then it's like, okay, cool. Here's my data. I assume that I should have at least 10 distinct clusters from this, and it's just like you got polynomial time. So
it's based on some understanding of how general cluster problems work and applies that to sort of normalize all of them?
I would think so. I would think that it's literally, it's not like, here are the clusters. It's just like, okay, I'm expecting this many clusters from this data. From what I've seen.
It's reminiscent to me of the sort of approach to sort of tweak a lot of initial weights in CNNs, where they train it on an image set first, and those are the pre-trained weights, and they just go, well, a lot of images have, you know, eventually lead to a fairly similar sort of weights, so we can sort of pre-train them on this, and even if we don't need any of the original ones, or we don't need it to be able to identify those, we can kind of just tweak it to be that, and taking advantage of transfer learning. And so assuming that he uses something like that, where there's some amount of transfer between sort of either an existing sort of cluster problems or just stuff that he had learned to do in cluster problems and just algorithmically apply it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I'll continue to like bring up these topics that I see that are pretty interesting. I think in general for our viewers, if you're interested in any type of like machine learning or AI or deep learning, the machine learning subreddit is very good to get into. I also am looking at the language programming subreddit, which is like all NLP related projects and tasks, but the machine learning one typically has like cool projects that can be implemented, and people have their code readily available, so you can check it out and just implement it yourself. So it's nice to look at. But that was the last thing I wanted to talk about. So
okay, any last notes, hacker?
I guess that's it for this week. Yeah.